Day 2 of Karen Reed's retrial. When it comes to Kerry Roberts, who's a second witness, I just have questions. So Kerry was like a good family friend. She was someone that John became closer to when they were older and John had taken on his sister's kids. And because Kerry had been friends with his sister, as well as she knew John growing up, I think they went to like a school dance or something together. They'd gotten really close. Like she was doing favors and stuff like that. And in fact, they'd gotten so close that when John didn't come home and Karen believed he was dead on the morning of July 29th, Kerry was the first person she called. Outside of the hard stuff, like physical evidence, etc., Kerry is considered to be one of the more damaging witnesses for the prosecution because she was not involved at the party the night before. She was not at 34 Fairview for the soiree. She was not there to witness or not witness anything. She was at home doing her own thing, and then in the morning gets this phone call. So when it comes to any sort of conspiracy or anything that could or did not go on in that house that night, her hands are clean. But regardless of what's happening now, Karen didn't like Kerry before. During the first trial, it stood out to me that Karen had texted something to Brian Higgins when she started to hit him up about Kerry. Sort of like like Kerry, like taking for granted that everyone might be in on some sort of big joke about Kerry. I don't think Higgins really engaged with it. Like he sort of was like, huh, what? But that was very much how Higgins was throughout all of their texts. I mean, that was a confused man. But it always stood out to me because I was like, huh, that's kind of like shitty. Like, you don't always know who you're talking shit to. Do you know what I mean? So I'm watching this testimony now of the guy that went to the house when Karen was sectioned to sort of like deal with her and help her out. And Karen was, while he's trying to like give her some sort of aid, Karen keeps asking, whether or not John's alive. And he tries to comfort her by saying something like, well, you have a really good support system here. Turns out he knows some of the people on the lawn that morning, including Kerry Roberts. And Karen looks up and she says something like, really? Like if you knew Kerry, you wouldn't say that. I think that's strange. Once again, strange. Why is Karen so comfortable just talking shit about Kerry? Why would she say that? Like, you know the bit. Like, no one gets support from Kerry. What does that mean? I feel like if we know one thing about Kerry, it's that she was very supportive to the person who needed it most, John. We know why Karen doesn't like her now, right? She's in on it, okay? We also know that Kerry said something during the first trial that would probably make Karen dislike her even more, which was when she was describing Karen's relationship with John. She called her a babysitter with benefits, which has to hurt. At the same time, I think that's the rub. I think Kerry just was not particularly impressed with Karen. And I think Karen takes great offense to that. And I think that's why Karen was convinced the morning that John died and his mom was consoling his nephew, she's like, well, they must be thinking about me. They're all looking at me and thinking I'm a murderer. Making up conversations with herself about what John's mom said to her about how John died and like who could have done it and who could be at fault. I think Karen Reed feels like she is a very impressive person. I feel like she thinks she is the center of every room she walks into, and I think in some ways that is her greatest undoing here. It seems to me like no one would have even thought Karen had anything to do with this, and if she hadn't like said, I hit him. But even then, I think they would have let that go. I think John's death would have been an accident on paper if Karen had just chilled out and not made everything about her. But yeah, I mean, like my thing, unless anyone has any info, I think that Karen's problem with Kerry that she felt comfortable blasting out to everyone was that Kerry just was unmoved by her. What a deadly mistake.